Peace. Joining us now, he's a member of the House Armed Services Committee and an expert on the Middle East, Florida Congressman Cory Mills. Cory, we've seen these attacks back and forth. What do you see as Israel's goals in this war?
Well, again, I mean, the goal from the very beginning was to ensure that Iran does not have the nuclear enrichment capability to get to a weapons-grade nuclear delivery. And so what they've continued to do is President Trump has tried multiple times to have meetings and peace negotiations to ensure that they could get rid of their nuclear programs. They've done everything they can to try and really look at how they can be a contributing member to the Middle East and its overall stability. And unfortunately, the talks are, not going successfully, but they're still ongoing. We know that Steve Witkoff will be heading to the region on Sunday for further talks. And so I guess we have to see where it's going from here. But look, the continued aggression by the Iranian regime is going to do nothing but continue to escalate things and making sure that, when they look at these retaliatory attacks against Israel, which is now impacting and actually costing the lives of Israelis in Tel Aviv, this is going to immediately get a type of response that they're not looking for.
Do you believe that the denuclearization goals can be achieved short of regime change?
It's one of those really, really kind of catch-22 answers. You don't want to try and press upon the idea of war. You want to try and hope that there's actually a solution, that they look at facing their own demise, that they would actually try and do the right things. But unfortunately, I don't really see where this regime wants change. This regime wants peace, or this regime wants stability. That's why they continue to try and violate the IAEI agreement. That's why they violated the JCPOA twice, as General Secretary Ban Ki-moon and Gutierrez said when they were shipping mid-range ballistic missiles to the Houthi rebels. So, I would like to be hopeful. I know that the president has the art of negotiation. He does want peace and stability within the actual Middle East. And so I'm hoping that the talks with Steve Witkoff will go much better now that Iran truly does see what the real outcome can be if they continue to move forward.
Yeah, I guess my broader question, and you know all the players, you know the region very well, is there any deal that can be reached with Iran? It seems the president believes so. He's put out these messages really calling Iran to the negotiating table. Some say the only solution is regime change. I'm very skeptical of those claims. I would hope that we'd be able to get out of this without repeating some of the failures that we've made in the past in the Middle East. And so knowing the regime, studying it as you have, do you think there's any deal that they can make to avoid further decapitation strikes from Israel or others?
Well, I think if anybody can actually make a deal or a strategy, it is President Trump. I don't think anyone else will be able to negotiate what he's negotiated throughout the past, whether that's the expansion of the Abraham Accords, whether that's looking at the Ukraine-Russian agreement there. So if anyone can do it, it is President Trump. But, like yourself, I am somewhat skeptical. But I think that there's a different time right now than there was previously. Before we had not struck in Iran to the level in which we have, recently. We look at where they've eliminated the S-300 missile, surface-to-air missile capabilities. They were able to actually get into Natanz, which Natanz and Esfahan and Qom is where the largest amount of surface-to-air missile capabilities are. That was defending a majority of their enrichment process and their centrifuges. So the fact that they were able to do this, plus eliminate key leaders in the Ayatollah's regime, I think sends a direct message. And I know that they focus in a lot on the 4 individuals that they've been able to successfully eliminate, but I want to press upon what it truly means, because not only did they eliminate Hossein Salami, which is the head of the entire Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is their entire armed services, would be the equivalent of like our, minister or our chief of defense or things like this, so our Secretary of Defense, but they also eliminated the former head and the director of the nuclear program. And so this was a big thing with Abbasi. They eliminated Abbasi, and they eliminated the guy who was responsible for the masterminding of April 2024, with the attacks in Israel, who was also the head of their missile program, and so with Ali Hajizadeh. And so, it's really key that they've been not just strategic in eliminating these key leaders, but they also have gone after key strategic targets, showing the Ayatollah and others that there is no one who is safe if they truly want to get to them. I think this sends a very troubling message to him, where he would want to make a deal, even if it's just for self-preservation at this point.
I'm trying to ascertain what the right role is for the United States in all of this. We principally funded this attack in the National Defense Supplemental that had the Ukraine stuff wrapped up in it and the Taiwan stuff wrapped up in it. But right now it seems U.S. forces are assisting shooting down Iranian missiles headed into Israel. Is that the right role? Should the United States be joining in airstrikes in Tehran? How do you see it?
This is where it's really troubling. Just like yourself, Matt, when we were in Congress, I'm not for never-ending wars. I'm not for trying to put Americans at risk. I'm not for spending trillions of dollars on these George W. Bush neoconservative ideologies of nation building and, stabilization. But I also understand that unlike an area which is just talking about Houthi rebels who are trying to disrupt, global trade through the Red Sea, we're talking about nuclear, weapons capabilities. And we know for a fact that the IAEA is not really friendly when it comes to Israel, the U.S. They have actually tried to say that it's not at a higher enrichment point, and even now they're starting to sound the alarms. Now, do I think that I should put boots on the ground, or we should actually go ahead and continue to abuse the use of the AUMFs, which is a direct abdication of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11 through 13 of Congress? No, I do not. But I think that giving Israel its right to defense, giving its right to sovereignty, allowing it to go ahead and eliminate what it perceives as a existential threat, that's really on that sovereign nation. And so I leave this to Israel to go ahead and do what they feel is the right thing. But I also leave it to President Trump to try and find a peaceful and good resolution for the entire region that doesn't continue to cause turmoil, warfare, and more lives lost.
The proxies of Iran have suffered in battle these last several months. How capable do you think those proxies are now if activated in different parts of the globe?
Well, I'll tell you, I think that they've been diminished greatly when you look at whether it was Sinwar of Hamas or whether it was Hassan Nasrallah of Hezbollah, or if you look at what the U.S. has done to really deteriorate the entire capabilities of the Houthi rebel forces. I think that that's, kind of one of those areas that the biggest militia play would be in Iraq. That's where you have Hashd al-Shabi. That's where you have those who had been Kataib Hezbollah, et cetera, who actually have a lot more capability and funding. But what I'm really concerned about more than anything, Matt, and you know this all too well, under this Biden administration, it was almost as if they were pro-Iran, pro-China, pro-open borders, pro-amnesty, anti-America. And that resulted in 20 plus million people who's come into America illegally. And so what I'm most concerned with is how many sleeper cells are there throughout the world, throughout Europe, and potentially here at home? What does that mean for an activation? And what does that mean for some type of attack here on American soil? So I think that we just continue to try and do what we've been doing with our counterterrorism units. I think that I'm very much confident that Kash Patel and the FBI and also Dave Ratcliffe over in the CIA, as well as for Tulsi and Odie and I, we'll continue to look at all the various intel pools and human collections, SIGINT, geopolitical. And so, that's where I'm most concerned with. But I don't think that the current militias can do anything other than try and do annoyance attacks, maybe launch Katyusha rockets and try and impact our embassies and bases, but not large-scale attacks or counterattacks that they could do on Israel.
So wait, are you expecting attacks on U.S. forces? Because it's interesting to me, like as of the time of this discussion, Iran has not fulfilled its threat to attack American interests. Their response has exclusively been against Israel. Should we read into that some restraint, or is this just the front end of the wave, and should we be expecting attacks on American forces?
Well, I don't know that it was so much restraint or respect. I think that they saw very clearly when President Trump was in office the first time, and he made it very abundantly, just transparent, that if you kill even a single American, that I've got targets already designated and I'll be the one who strikes within Iran. And so I think that it's a fear of actually attacking and killing Americans. But here's the thing that they have to keep in mind. Even their attacks in Tel Aviv, even their attacks in various areas, there is a tremendous amount of Americans. I had a delegation of 10 people who's reached out to me today that's trapped there in Tel Aviv. And so I think that it's a retaliatory effort by Iran to save face, but it's a very, very ill-advised play that could result in the complete, demise of this regime. And so this is what we want to prevent. We don't want all-out warfare. What we want is to try and get to the table to stop Iran from having a nuclear capability that would be able to be weaponized against anyone throughout the world. And we want to find stability for the Iranian people as well as for the Middle East. That's what President Trump is continuing continue to say. And I think that right now you're right in the fact that they haven't attacked Americans directly or our bases in Iraq, etc. But then again, I wouldn't put it past a rogue militia group from trying to do something in Iraq or other places, which is why.
Well, wait, hold on. Is that what
Secretary Rubio.
Yeah, is that the greatest likelihood that Iran will want some degree of distance between themselves and any attack on Americans? And so the real action is, are any of these proxy groups ambitious enough or capable enough to do something to some of our troops abroad? I mean, is that really the core question, Congressman?
Well, we've seen it before, Matt. We watched where the Houthis said that they were tired of the Ayatollah saber rattling and not doing enough to attack the Zionists, attack the Americans. And so they actually went on their own and started attacking American vessels in the Red Sea and around the Gulf. And so we know that their kind of militia groups have gone rogue in the past. We know that it is something which is possible with some of these radicalized ideologies. But I think Iran themselves, I don't think will want to do that. And they'll distance themselves, hoping that the U.S. will actually come, and have a negotiation and a peace deal and be an arbitrary mediator almost between Israel and Iran. And hopefully that'll result in what President Trump's trying to achieve.
For those watching, Congressman Mills has a voting record that is very pristine when it comes to realism in foreign policy. He is not one of these invade every sand dune and convert every Central Asian cave into a Jeffersonian democracy. That is not, you come very much from the America First side of foreign policy. So I think it is noteworthy that you are pointing to the dangers of Iran more than you are pointing to the dangers of escalation from U.S. involvement. I don't know if you're right about that. I'm deeply concerned about U.S. involvement. But one thing you're also known for is you go sometimes to the areas in the world where there is conflict, and you have personally led harrowing rescues of folks who've been stuck in troubling situations. Do I even want to ask whether or not you're going to be going to this part of the world, or should I just better not?
I would just go ahead and say stay tuned.
Congressman Cory Mills, member of the House Armed Services Committee, one of the smartest folks on Capitol Hill on these issues, and certainly this part of the world that is erupting in conflict. Thanks for joining us on the program.
Thanks, Matt.